Anthropology. I'll be guiding you through this optional, both the papers, paper 1 and paper 2. And my ultimate aim is to make you understand the concepts with clarity by connecting to the real life examples and help you to score well in both the papers. So let's start anthropology. Have you ever thought, although we all belong to the same human race, some people live in the hilly regions, some people build mega cities, some people they construct like satellites, yet they break the coconuts before the launch. Why? It is this curiosity that gave birth to the optional anthropology. So anthropology helps to link science with the society and past with the present. So before entering into this optional, let's understand why UPSC introduced optionals. What is the purpose of optionals? What do you think? See, I expect an interactive session. My way of teaching will be interactive. Please don't be a passive listener. Yes, please. Complete knowledge or in-depth knowledge? In-depth knowledge. GS just give you a generalistic knowledge. You'll have an idea about each and everything just like that to a surface level depth. But here, optionals give you specialized knowledge, special type of skills. Basically, this is specialist in nature. Why specialized skills are given through this optional? Because it makes administrator ready to deal with the real-time governance challenges. How anthropology helps you to deal with the real-time governance challenges? How?
To make future perspective policies.
To make policies. What type of policies? Everyone makes policies. You don't need anthropology to make policies.
But if you want to make a policy towards the increases.
Okay, you are thinking about.
Violence of offender is actually purpose. So he has to observe some conditions, what they are doing and what they are like,
right.
etc. So based on that, they have to make a policy and we have to execute as per the regulations and customs.
Exactly, right.
If they execute any policy, there is no use and we can't enhance the policies.
There is no use because community doesn't accept it. When community doesn't accept it, you can do nothing about that. Right? So here anthropology helps you to understand the world or to see the world from the eyes of others. Not your own eyes. Your own eyes are biased by your own perceptions, your own belief systems. But here anthropology will help you to see the world from the other's eyes. Right? And not just that, anthropology gives you a range of optionals because students are coming from diverse educational backgrounds, so they have different strengths, and based on their strengths, they will choose optionals like maths, literature, anthropology, sociology, etc. To create a level playing field, anthropology has given a series of optionals for the students to choose the optional in which they have their own strength. So this is the rationale behind optional subjects introduced by UPSC, right? So what do you think anthropology is? Anthropology means study of evolution of humans. Only evolution? Evolution means biological evolution or cultural evolution? In the earlier times, we used to think that because of God there is rain. That is a belief system. So we evolved culturally also, not just biologically. Only evolution? Anthropos means man. Logos means science. So it is the science of man, study of man, study of what? What aspect of man? Psychology studies human mind, history studies human past, archaeology studies humans' prehistoric past where there are no written documents, sociology studies or geography studies where man is living, sociology studies how man is organized into society. Then what is anthropology study? Biology studies Biological aspects of man. Medicine studies health and disease. What does anthropology study about man? What is left? Socio-cultural aspects are studied in sociology. Also, we are studying in anthropology. That is one aspect. See, socio-cultural anthropology. This sociology, it studies all the socio-cultural aspects of man. Why man is living in groups, how man is behaving in groups, how man is behaving individually when there is no one watching him. Behavior is different, right? And why he is behaving the way he is behaving is studied by psychology. What study? Primitive study ante? What are we studying in anthropology? We are studying humans. What aspect of humans are we studying?
Every aspect from left to right.
Every aspect means breakdown.
Society, culture, biology. From coming to the biology, we go over the network.
Right? We are studying about how humans organized in societies, right? Societal aspect. We are studying about
Biological aspect.
biological aspect. What does that mean?
Eugenics or events.
Eugenics, euphonics, genetics.
We go over the network.
Before birth.
For example, recently one study was reflected in further community, further compost community. The presence of appendix is not very much. So this is nothing but some of the biological aspects.
Right?
In future, we can.
We are studying about the biological aspects. Okay? Biological aspects of man. Next. Cultural aspects of man. Right? What are different cultures, beliefs, customs, traditions, sanctions, etc. Social control mechanisms. Right? Next.
Demographic aspect.
Demography. Demographic aspect. We are studying about the population structure, the factors influencing the population, how population is changing, population dynamics, migration patterns. Right? Next.
Archaeological aspects.
Archaeological aspects. So here we are understanding the human past, prehistoric past, and also historic past. In historic past, we have several cultures which are written, which have a written proofs, written records, and prehistoric cultures, we don't have any written records. Then what is a source? Artifacts, archaeological artifacts, tools that the early man used, right? Archaeology,
Economics will be the aspects.
biology, and applications, be it health and medicine. Anything else? Psychological aspect. Why people believe certain beliefs as real. Why they oppose, why they try to impose their culture on the others, why they believe that their culture is superior, ethnocentrism. You heard about the story of white man burden? White man's burden? Vinnara leda? White man's burden is a theory popularized by the British. They justified the colonization of the Asian countries by stating that it is our burden. It's a white man's burden to civilize the non-European countries, because they believe that non-European cultures are savage, barbaric. So in the name of white man's burden, in the name of civilizing, they have exploited. So why certain cultures, as you said, eugenics. Eugenics is a concept originated in the Europe where they want to eliminate bad genes by killing people with the genetic defects. Why do they do so? So what is their thought process? What is influencing their thought process? Psychological aspect. So this is the holistic study of man, holistic and interdisciplinary. So we are taking the concepts from all the disciplines like psychology, medicine, sociology, right? Geography, like different subjects, history, archaeology. We are taking different concepts and we are making a best jigsaw puzzle, complete jigsaw puzzle. That is anthropology. It's a holistic and interdisciplinary study that studies humans across time and space. In the past, present, and what is the future scope? Space across different places. India, Africa, Europe, Australia. Wherever the culture and humans are spread. So here we focus on evolution and variation. How did evolution happen and why did there is variation in different parts of the country or different parts of the world in the human societies, because we all belong to one human race, yet there are differences across time and space. How these differences evolved and the reason, right? This is anthropology. Anthropology is known for its holism. It takes the concepts, key concepts from all the disciplines. This makes it fascinating and interesting. What is the importance of anthropology for the exam? What is the importance of anthropology for the exam? Sorry. Scoring potential. The scoring potential of anthropology. What is the scoring potential? Look at the statistics. There is a scope to score 300 plus marks out of 500 from the optional. So let's get to the facts. So generally we have 4 GS papers, 1 essay paper and 2 optional papers. So optional, including both the papers, it gives a score of 500. So the total marks for mains. How much? 1750? Out of 1750, how much you should score? What is the average topper score? Average. This is what you have to score, right? So from GS1 to GS4, the scores are almost stagnated. From GS1 to 4, on an average, you can score between 350 to 450. This is the average topper scores range. GS1 to 4, 350 to 450. And assume you can score 300 plus in the optional. Total you have to get between 800 to 900. So how much did you get? Here I did not consider essay paper. Including essay paper, you will be in the top 10 list. If you score 300 plus alone in the optional. These scores are almost stagnated. Plus 10 or minus 10. So where is the scope? Optional. Even if you cannot do well in the essay, you can find your name in the top 10 list. So optional is your rank deciding paper. You have to choose that optional which is more scoring. First priority scoring. Second priority, you have to analyze with your strengths whether you will be able to understand it, right? And whether sometimes people also consider this factor like there is no kick in the optional. No fun, it's not fascinating, right? So considering all these factors, your first priority should be scoring, because here your ultimate aim is to clear the exam, not to find kick in the optional, right? Not to do PhD in the optional. Have you seen the scores of the toppers? There are toppers who switched their optional to anthropology in the last minute and secured a good rank. 2025 score. So there are myths stating that the anthropology optional is losing its scores. No, it's not. Next best reason why you should choose Anthropology. Syllabus. For its well-defined syllabus from paper 1 and paper 2, along with there is interlinking between paper 1 and paper 2 that you have to find out. So let's see the syllabus. The syllabus can be broadly divided under 4 sections. Socio-cultural anthropology, here chapters 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1 to 2.5, 3. These chapters come under socio-cultural anthropology in paper 1. Paper 2 we have again in paper 1, the next important part is physical anthropology. Physical anthropology we have the chapters like 1.7, 9.1 to 9.8, 10, 11.1 to 11.3, 12. These are the topics from physical anthropology, paper 1. Right? In 2025, 50% of the questions came from physical anthropology and archaeological anthropology. And this chapter 6 alone in socio-cultural anthropology, 50 marks from this chapter, anthropological theories. Next. The next major sections are archaeological anthropology, paper 1 plus paper 2. We have topics from paper 1 and paper 2. From paper 1, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. They form evolutionary anthropology, where we try to understand the evolution and emergence of man by discussing about different theories, pre-Darwinian theory, post-Darwinian theory, and along with the early hominid ancestors like Australopithecines, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals. They are early human ancestors. So this is evolutionary anthropology. And in paper 1, 1.8, it gives the details about dating methods, chronometric dating, relative dating methods, and prehistoric cultures of the world like Stone Ages, Old Stone Ages, right? Chalcolithic, Neolithic, prehistoric cultures of the world. And in paper 2, 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3. Here we will discuss the prehistoric cultures of India. Same Neolithic period in India, Chalcolithic period in India, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Iron Age in India, IVC in India. This is India specific. And in 1.2, here we are talking about early hominid ancestors. And in 1.2, we talk about early hominid ancestors from India. The fossils which are found in India. 1.3 is all about ethno-archaeology. So this is paper 2, paper 1. Archaeological anthropology. Next section, tribal and village studies. So here we talk about Indian society. Paper 2, 2 to 5. Chapters 2 to 5, we talk about Indian society, the demographic profile of India, both ethnic and linguistic elements. Right, along with that we talk about ancient social structures like Varnashrama, Purushartha, Karma, Rina, rebirth, along with that caste system, village system, etc. 2 to 5 topics talk about Indian society from the past to the present and future dynamics. And tribal studies from 6 to 9. We talk about the tribal issues, rehabilitation issues, different problems of land alienation, poverty, illiteracy, malnutrition, disease, genetic problems in tribals, and what is the impact of urbanization, globalization, how tribal societies are changing, how they used to be, how they are changing, why they are changing, in which direction they are changing, and why there are ethnic conflicts in tribal societies. Here you can connect with real life examples, especially from examples from current affairs. So examples and case studies dominate in this section. Done. We are completed with syllabus of anthropology. In detail, we'll discuss. Understood? Next, what is the next best reason to choose anthropology? Answer writing. In anthropology, answer writing has a scientific framework. See, anthropology is not a uniform topics. You don't have any uniform pattern of topics. So every part you have to deal it in a different way. Right? For example, when you're writing answers regarding socio-cultural anthropology, an answer requires definitely a thinker and any cultural practice. The case study associated with that thinker, the field work associated with that thinker, and the book published by that thinker. This should be in the introduction. And in the body, you have to come up with flowcharts. Flowcharts enhance the answers which are related to socio-cultural anthropology. The details, the minute details and flowcharts, right? So this is how you will approach socio-cultural anthropology. And when you're writing answer regarding physical anthropology, diagrams matters the most. Diagrams are important, right? In the introduction, scientific definitions, keywords are important, right? And your answer should not be technical. Whoever had a strong background in science, be aware of it. Your answer should not be technical. It should be in a simple language and a diagram and with the keywords, right? And when you're writing answers from the paper 2, tribal studies or caste studies, you have to mention case studies. You have to mention the names of tribes, especially Indian tribes. So paper 2 is all about Indian anthropology, Indian thinkers, Indian society, Indian tribals. So here you have to mention Indian specific content in paper 2, right? So here you have frameworks for answers and you have to enrich the framework by adding current examples. That is what makes a difference between 200 marks and between 270 marks, between 250, 280 and 300 plus marks, right? They are writing the same, but thing is that they are following the framework and along with that, they are enriching the content. They are connecting to current affairs. That is what important. Application orientation. Next, overlap with GS. So anthropology overlaps with which GS subjects? To what percentage? Let's analyze. GS1. So I told you in paper 2 we talk about caste. Caste is a characteristic feature of Indian society, salient feature of Indian society. So here you have an overlap with Indian society. GS2. We talk about, in paper 2, we talk about tribal issues, we talk about constitutional safeguards for SCs, STs, OBCs, we talk about Schedule 5, Schedule 6 areas, provisions, problems, right? Tribal administration overlaps with GS2. GS3, we talk about genetics, Indian Genome Project, DNA fingerprinting, right? All this comes under GS3. We also study environmental adaptations to different conditions. So that also comes under environment part as well, right? We can apply some concepts of anthropology to GS4, ethics as well. We have a concept of cultural relativism. What is ethical relativism? Ethical relativism. How do you judge an action as a right and wrong? We have two concepts called ethical absolutism and relativism. In absolutism, what is right is fixed. If you violate from that norm, that is unethical. In relativism, what is right is not fixed. What is right depends on situation, depends on the person, depends on the intent of the action. So here also we have a concept called cultural relativism. You cannot say a culture is right and wrong. Every culture is right in its own sense because every culture is rooted in its history, It is rooted in its environment. So you need to understand one culture's environment and history to justify culture of that society. Cultural relativism. And you have also concepts like culture, personality, school of thought. Anthropological theories gives you a scope or a perspective to analyze the questions in essay. For example, culture, personality, school. What is culture, personality, school? How a personality is formed? Why person behaves in a specific way? Why Japanese are aggressive? Why Japanese are aggressive? Why they fight aggressively in the war? Why they are brutal in the war? Because culture. Their childhood is filled with anxiety, trauma, because of which that influenced their personality. That is the reason why they are very much aggressive during war. So culture influences personality. How compassion resulted in the formation of human evolution, human societies. So there are certain concepts which you can also use in essay, right? So this is the overlap. You will understand the overlap once you complete at least two, 3 readings of the whole optional. Only then you will be able to connect to different GS subjects, right? Next, beginner friendly. It doesn't require any specialization in any subject like medicine, biology, zoology, nothing required. It is beginner friendly optional. You can understand clearly and easily. And it is a fascinating subject because you will get to know different customs and traditions of different people. Do you know in the northeastern tribes, there is a practice of bride price, just like dowry. In this mainstream Indian society, women have to pay dowry. The bride has to pay dowry to buy the groom. Generally, custom. We are not talking about thought process. This is a custom. This is a tradition in the society, right? But in northeastern society, men, groom have to pay the bride price. That name is bride price, but same thing, dowry, to get married to the girl. If he cannot pay, he has to work in the family of the girl. He has to serve, right? Until a dowry mottam katte varaku. Yes, he will not be given any penny. He has to work for 6 months and then only he will get right over his wife and children. Then he can move out, right? There are certain traditions. There is a practice of cow-wed. So in the southern Indian tribes near Nilgiris, men imitate the labor pains of their wife. Yes, this practice is called cow-wed. So it has a significance that we'll discuss when we are dealing with this specific topic. Why men imitate labor pains of their wife while she's giving birth. Right? So you'll get to understand fascinating traditions and customs. Right? Next, as an administrator, sensitive governance. Do you know what happened during COVID-19? So people want to stop this spread, especially administrators, they want to stop this spread. So what is one way they chose? Vaccination. And there are several myths associated with vaccination. So because of vaccination, your fertility rates will fall down. Because of vaccination, you will die. So these myths are more, especially in tribal societies. So whenever administrators used to come to the tribal society, people used to hide in the forest. Tribals used to hide in the forest. What will the administrators do? Every day they'll come, every day these people are hiding in the forest. So what is the solution? Then they hired an anthropologist. So this anthropologist, he went to the field, he spoke to the elders of the community, he understood what is the reason behind this behavior. They stated that, see, first thing, they are suspicious. There is a trust deficit with strangers. They don't believe in strangers, especially administrators and the state, because they have traditional authority. For them, whatever their headman says, whatever their chief says, they will listen to that. They don't listen to the police, they don't listen to CM or PM. Immaterial to them, irrelevant to them. Right, first thing. And second thing is that they don't believe in modern medicine. They believe in herbs and concoctions. So now this anthropologist, he acts like a bridge. Anthropologists are called the social doctors and engineers in the society. Now he acted as a bridge between the administrators and the tribals. He convinced the tribals chiefs to take the vaccine first in front of everyone. So by doing this, now the people gained trust and there is a 99% of vaccination drive successful. So here, with the help of anthropologists, they understand what a people or the culture behind the people, the reason behind the people. They work with the people and they act as a bridge. What if the administrator becomes the anthropologist? Right? It results in sensitive governance. So the community accepts the policies. It's not top down. The policies are no more top down. What is development for you may not be the development for the tribes. So if you say that I want your land, I'll give you 4 times, 5 times the market rate. No, money is not their criteria. So they prioritize relationships. So wherever they are living, their habitat is associated with the God. They believe that the nature is God. So when here the sentiments are at stake, beliefs are at stake. So people don't think about money then. So then how will you deal with it? That's a question. So these are some advantages of anthropology. Right? Let's decode the syllabus now in detail. Paper 1, it has 12 chapters. We divided paper 1 into 3 major divisions. What are the 3 major divisions? Socio-cultural anthropology, physical anthropology, and archaeological anthropology, which also includes evolutionary anthropology. Right. Look at the first chapters. This is Introduction to Anthropology, where you understand what anthropology is, what anthropology consists of, what are the branches in anthropology, right? What is the scope of anthropology? Why should you study anthropology? This is the introduction. Next. It starts with 2.1 again. Here, we'll discuss about culture. What is culture? Way of life. So why certain group of people believe that their culture is important, others' culture is inferior? Why only they see one way of life as the only way of life? Right? What is way of life? This is what we'll explore in culture. Next, we talk about society. Which is more important, culture or society? Which came first? Culture came first or society came first? Can culture exist without society? Or can society exist without culture? All these topics will be discussed in society. And why do we have different societies and how society is changing? Right? Next, 2.3 we'll talk about marriage. Interesting topic. So why is marriage important? Is marriage really important? If it is not important, why does marriage as an institution still exist in the society? And how marriage originated, why it originated, what are the functions of marriage, and what are involved in the marriage, and how marriage is evolving, how traditions are evolving, what different forms of marriage, like male-male marriages, female-female marriages are happening, right? And marriages are not sustaining. At some point of time, we believe that marriage is sacrosanct. But now, it is just a contract. So, different influence patterns and what economic transactions are involved in marriage. Gift exchange, cheeral pettali, sara pettali, right? And how do you get a mate in a marriage? Different societies have different methods. Not every society have an arranged marriage or love marriage. Some societies also test men, also test women before marriage. Family. Family is formed from marriage, right? What is family? We have different types of families. We have joint families in the past and nuclear families today, dominating today. Why that pattern is changing? Why joint families are becoming nuclear families? Is family as an institution still surviving today? We call our friends as families. In the olden days, people who are related by blood are called family. Today we call our friends as families, right? Why is that distance? What factors are influencing this breakdown or this behavior? Kinship. What is kinship? Relatives. Relatives by blood and relatives by descent. What does that mean? Andarki same gotram unte, we all are relatives because we all originated from the same ancestor. Still in North Indian villages, we have this custom. People of the same Gotra, they should not marry because they are believed to be descendants from the same ancestor. They are believed to be brother and sister. Although you have a different family, I am from a different family. But if you and me have the same Gotra, then it is not preferred for marriage because they are considered as brothers and sisters. So what is this Gotra? What is this clan, lineage, descent, right? What are different rules? Why do we have this kinship rules? Why do we have kinship rules? How property flows from father to son, elder son. In some societies, it goes from father to son. In some societies, it goes from mother to the youngest daughter. We call them as matrilineal societies. So kinship plays a very important role in the property division and also to determine in which location the newly married couple should stay. Whether you have to stay with the patrilineal, father side relatives, mother side relatives. Where are we staying today? Not with either of them. Neo-local residents. Why? What factors are helping or what factors are driving this change? Because employment. Because mobility. You have good communication and transportation facilities. So whenever you want to go, you can meet them. But your employment is here. That is the reason why we are staying away from the relatives. But in the past, there are different reasons why they have to stay with the father side relatives, why they have to stay with the mother side relatives only, why they have to switch between them, right? This we'll understand in kinship. Next, economic organization, chapter 3. Here we'll study how the ancient man, primitive man used to think. So whenever they go for hunting, they were hunters and gatherers, right, initially. So whenever they go for hunting, when they get the animal, they never stored in fridges. No, they never thought about what happens next. What is the food for tomorrow? They never thought about it. Whenever they got the hunt, they started to share among their relatives. But what we do today? We store. Why? We think about tomorrow. 10 rupees ichi 20 rupees product తీసుకోవాలనుకుంటాం మనం. That is the economic behavior, economic thought process of modern man. But primitive man is not economical. Primitive man is a social man. తనకి first relationships important. Primary kin, secondary kin, tertiary kin. ఆ kin distance ని బట్టి obligations ఉండేవి. Generalized reciprocity. They just used to share food. That's it. They never thought about what happens tomorrow. Because if I don't get food tomorrow, my relatives will give me the food. That is a trust in the society. Everyone used to have the same belief system. Primitive man is not economical man. So what is the economic thought process of the primitive man? And initially we don't have markets. Purtu markets అయితే establish చేసుకోలేదు కదా. Initially we have a reciprocity, then we have barter system, then came the market, then came the commercial production. Right? So different types of economic organizations like pastoralism, horticulture, agriculture, and how these economic systems are changing because of globalization. Globalization, more market access. Now even the tribals are exporting their products, right? Dynamics in the economic organization will be discussed. Next, political organizations. What do you mean by political organization, or why do you need political organization in the society? What is the function of a political organization? What is the function? Maintain the unity, protect the group, take decisions, conflict resolution. If two parties are conflicting, you have to resolve this conflict. If anyone did a mistake, you have to punish that person. So in the earlier societies, in the primitive societies, so what are the punishments? How did they establish that the person has committed a wrong? How? There are certain customs like you drink poison. If you are alive, you are the innocent. If you die, you are the guilt. If you die, okay, you are the guilt, and God, you are susceptible to the wrath of the God. నువ్వు తప్పు చేసావు కాబట్టి విషం తాగి చచ్చిపోయావు. విషం తాగినా బ్రతికితే తప్పు చేయలేదు. You have the grace of the God. Yes, such are the customs. You have to lick the red hot iron to prove your innocence. There are different customs to establish the guilt. And how will you be punished? Some tribes have eye for an eye. If you kill one person from our tribe, we will kill one person from other tribe. And some societies have mockery. That means they will make fun of you in front of everyone. And in some societies, you have to give food. You have to arrange a feast so that people will please and will kshaminchestarnenu. They will apologize you. So there are different methods of punishment. There are different methods to establish a crime. There are different methods to take decisions. So whenever you want to guide, an expert used to come, because primitive societies are egalitarian societies. There is no hierarchy. You are high class, you are low class, you are that caste, this caste, ala stratification ledu primitive societies. So everyone is same. But who will decide? Who is an expert? Who has the knowledge will decide. And leadership is situational. Now that person will not be the leader for entire year or entire lifetime. When the situation comes, he will lead because he had experience. And when the other situation comes, there will be a different person. From such systems, we evolved to democracy. So what are the transitional systems? Transitional political organizations. That we'll discuss under political organization and social control. Chapter 5 is religion. This is interesting. So what is religion and how religion originated? There are different theories that explain the origin of religion. Some people believe in souls, animism. Some people believe in weapons. So objects, they worship objects, crafts. They believe that these objects have that supernatural soul. Some people believe in nature. Nature has a soul, so they worship nature. So there are different forms of this religion. And there are different people who are the practitioners of this religion. For example, priest in Hinduism, right? So if there are middlemen in this religion, different types of religions have different types of middlemen. There is witchcraft, there is sorcery, right? So many things. Magico-religious functionaries, priest, shaman, medicine man, etc. Next, chapter 6. This is important because in 2025, we got questions worth 50 marks. Classical evolutionism. This school of thought. See here approximately we have 10 school of thoughts, 10 to 11 school of thoughts, and each school of thought has a definite perspective towards society and culture. Different perspective. The way they understand society is completely different. Classical evolutionism, they focus on the evolution of culture, how culture evolved from the past to the present form. This is their focus. Then we talk about diffusionism. So diffusionism, they say that we have almost many cultures have similar traditions. So they say that it's not our independent thinking. Humans are imitators, more imitators than innovators. So we see and we copy. So culture started to diffuse from one society to the other society. That is the reason why multiple cultures have same traditions. Right? Next, functionalism. So this school of thought, it focuses on not the evolution of culture. They focus on what is a function of culture. So what purpose is the culture serving you? Why are you following the culture? Suppose take marriage. What is the purpose of marriage? What is the function of marriage? What is the function of marriage? Yes, reproduction. A channelized reproduction. Because of marriage, sexual competition in the society decreases and people start living peacefully. Right? Reduce the sexual competition in the society and reproduction and enculturation. When you have children, you will teach your children the culture. So your culture continues. Your lineage continues. So they say that every cultural aspect has a function. You need to understand culture from its functional perspective. Right? Next, structuralism. This school of thought, it talks about what is the structure of a culture. Why a culture is like this, in this way. Like how language has a word and grammar, culture also has a structure. Right? Next, culture and personality school of thought. So this school of thought, it says that culture has an influence on the personality. Your personality is because of your culture. Right? And personality has an influence of the culture. Both culture and personality influence each other. How and why we'll discuss in the dedicated chapters. Neo-evolutionism also talks about evolution of culture, but here they provide the evidence. with artifacts, archaeological artifacts. They give the evolution. This way the society evolved, and this is a proof. In classical evolutionism, there are no artifacts, there is no evidence. Here, these thinkers are called armchair anthropologists. They used to read books, they used to lie, imagine, and then they used to give theories. But here they provided the evidence. Cultural materialism, this school of thought states that if material evolves, culture also evolves. From cycle to car, material evolved, so culture also evolved along with that. Culture also progressed. So material based. Symbolic and cognitive theories, they focus on understanding the meaning of culture. What is the meaning of culture for the insiders, not for you? You might not have any meaning to the others' cultures, right? But insider will have a meaning to whatever the cultural practice they have, right? So here this meaning is derived from insider perspective. Chapter 7 is about language and communication. Here we will discuss the origin of language and how language influences your behavior and how culture influences your language. Like, they'll quote a simple example. When you're well studied, you keep saying girl. You pronounce it as girl, right? But how an average laborer pronounces it? Girl, right? So, social context of language use. So, here your culture also influence your language. Next, chapter 8, research methods in anthropology. You have seen the theories in chapter 6. So to give theories, you need data. So these are different methods used for data collection. Based on this data, the thinkers have given their hypotheses and theories, right? This is sociocultural anthropology. Next, we move to physical anthropology. Physical anthropology starts with chapter 1.7. Chapter 1.7 talks about biological basis of life. We'll start with a cell division. What are present inside the cell? Especially we talk about DNA, nucleus, DNA, gene. What are these things? Basics, right? And how cell divides and what are chromosomes. Basically, we are talking about the genetic material in the cell. Next, we move to chapter 9. Look at 9.4. 9.4 helps us to understand why babies with defects are born, genetic defects. Why babies with 6 fingers are born. Why babies with small head are born. Why babies with congenital heart diseases are born. Why babies with cleft lips are born. And all these things. Genetic disorders. Why? And different types of genetic disorders. 9.1, how do you find these genetic disorders? How do you find methods like immunological method, biochemical method, karyotype analysis? These methods are used to diagnose the genetic defects in babies. Right? Next, 9.2, Mendelian genetics. So here we will understand the rules which helps us to understand why children and parents look similar. What are the rules or which material is responsible for that similarity? Why children look similar to the parents? Why children behave similarly to the parents? So that is understood by Mendelian genetics. Next, population genetics. Here we will study why different genes are distributed in different populations. Why Africans have O blood group. Why Asians have B blood group. Why Europeans have A blood group. Right? Why Africans have certain type of diseases. Why Asians have certain type of diseases. Why Ebola was only restricted to African population. Although you have connectivity, the spread of Ebola is very less. Why? distribution of genes in different populations. Population genetics, 9.3. 9.5. Why Northeast people? They have small eyes, round face, broad nose. Why South Indian people are dark and dusky? Majority. Right? And why North Indians have a straight hair? So, race. We talk about what is a criteria for a race. Right? 9.6. We talk about genetic markers. We talk about genetic markers. These are nothing but some identification markers. When they are present, they indicate something. When they are absent, they indicate something. For example, a gene, a small mutation in a hemoglobin gene. When that is present, a population is suffering from sickle cell anemia. When that is absent, the population is healthy population. Right? When HCG protein is present, human chorionic gonadotropin, that means the person is conceived. If that is not present, the person is normal. So these are certain identity markers. Their presence or absence indicates something. Right? Next, 9.7. 9.7 helps us to understand how people evolve in extreme climatic conditions, like extremely hot condition, extremely cold condition. Why people in the polar regions are short and fat with short arms. Why people in Africa, which is very near to the equator, very long, why do they have long arms? Adaptations. And why people in high altitude regions have broad chest? Adaptations, biological adaptations, biocultural adaptations. So when you are exposed to harsh environmental conditions, how your body adapts, how you adapt your culture, how do you behave, right? That is important. For example, people who are living near desert regions, extremely hot conditions, they prefer to wear white clothes. They don't prefer hot clothes because black clothes because black absorbs more heat, right? So this is some cultural behaviors derived from the environment you are living in. Next, 9.8, epidemiological anthropology. This topic will help you to understand health and disease, how people perceive health and disease. Suppose a person is suffering from a problem, you're not well, then what will you do? You'll go to the doctor. First, self-medication. First 2 days self-medication to try chestam, because we become our own doctors. After that, we'll go to the doctor if the problem continues. But how tribals perceive disease? Gali sokindi, dishti tagilindi. This is their perception of a disease, very important. When they perceive disease like this, then what are the remedies they are choosing? They are going for herbal concoctions or they are going for magical practices. Puja cheyali, homam cheyali, right? Dishti tiyali. But is the real problem solved? No, it is not solved. That is increasing the death rates in the tribals as well. How do you perceive a disease? And ethnomedicine. So here, the tribal practices, tribal remedies are being tested on a wide scale because they have bioactive compounds. They are scientifically valuable. They can be cured. They can be used as a cure for many chronic diseases. For example, recently, Konyak Naga tried their tribal remedy is showing promising results for cancer treatment. It has a bioactive compound that can actually work on the blood vessel network in the tumor. Tumor spread by blood vessels network. So that blood vessel growth is stopped by this tribal remedy, which is formed by from 5 herbal leaves. They are making a concoction. And that tribal remedy is blocking the process of blood vessel growth in the tumor. That means it is stopping the spread of tumor. So basically it is controlling tumor without going for chemotherapy. Ethnomedicine. Chapter 10, we talk about growth and development, different stages, what happens in the prenatal stage, postnatal stage. There are certain milestones that have to be achieved at different stages of growth. If those milestones are not achieved, that means you are suffering from a nutritional deficiency or a genetic disorder. Chapter 11 is about menarche and menopause. This is very important for fertility. Menarche, menopause. It is the opening and the closing window of the fertility in women. So population dynamics are associated with women fertility, and menarche and menopause control women fertility. So here we talk about demographic theories, population related theories. Next, last topic in physical anthropology, applications of anthropology. So here we'll discuss about anthropology of sports. So which body type suits which sport? When you have long legs, then you can go for sprinting. When you have short height and more muscled body, then you can go for wrestling, shot put. So which body type gives a peak sports performance? Anthropology of sports, nutritional anthropology, finding out the nutritional deficiencies of a population and coming out with strategies. Anthropology in designing defense equipment. So here you have to design the equipment in such a way that the army men, they have to carry it. It should be portable. When you find any inconvenience, you cannot use that weapon properly. So here the weapons are designed to minimize that human inconvenience so that you can fire the weapon with more efficiency. Right? Personal identification and reconstruction, forensic anthropology. How do you identify? Suppose you have a skeletal remains. How will you identify whether the skeletal remains belong to dog or human? There are certain principles. After realizing that these principles are, skeletons belongs to humans, then how will you differentiate whether the skeletal remains are from a man or from a woman? Again, you have certain principles, right? Paternity diagnosis. There are methods to identify who is the father of the child. Paternity diagnosis, eugenics, DNA technology, how DNA technology is used to treat diseases through antibodies, DNA and monoclonal antibodies. We'll discuss here. That was asked in PYQ once, which is also a part of SNT, right? We discuss about DNA vaccines. We discuss about genetic engineering, gene therapy, etc. CRISPR-Cas9, etc. So this is physical anthropology. Got clarity on what we will study in physical anthropology? Right? Next, evolutionary anthropology. (1.4), 1.5, 1.6. Human evolution and emergence of man. We all know that humans evolved from apes. These theories will tell you why and how. Right? Next, primates. Who are primates? Primates are nothing but we all belong to the order primates. Monkeys, apes, chimpanzees, gibbons, orangutans, primates. We all belong to this order primates. So here, we will understand how primates are behaving. When we understand how primates are behaving, we can understand why humans are behaving this way. Because we came from the primates, and you know, chimpanzees and we have almost 99% of same DNA. So by understanding chimpanzees, to some extent we can understand humans, right? Next, 1.6. This is about early hominid ancestors. So after monkeys came the apes. Between apes and humans, we have transitional figures. They doesn't look like ape, they doesn't look like human. Ape man, right? Like Australopithecines, Homo erectus, Rhodesian man, Neanderthal man, etc. So these are early hominid ancestors. They are not apes. They are not humans. Transitional species. They don't exist today. Continuation of this part. Paper 2. See, look at the link between paper 1 and paper 2. Look at 1.2. We are talking about hominid ancestors from India. Continuation of 1.6 in paper 1, 1.2 in paper 2. Right? Early hominid ancestors from India. There we studied Australopithecus in Africa. Here, Shivapithecus near Shivalik Hills. Next, archaeological anthropology. (1.8) Principles of prehistoric archaeology. Here we will study about different dating methods. Dating methods are used to calculate the age of the fossil. When you know what is the age of the fossil, then you can locate to which period it belongs to. Prehistoric cultures: Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Chalco, Copper, Bronze and Iron Age. Continuation in paper 2. Indian culture and civilization: prehistoric, Paleolithic, Meso, Neo, Chalcolithic, IVC in India. So this is archaeological anthropology along with 1.3 ethnoarchaeology in India. We completed archaeology aspect as well. This is what archaeological anthropology comprises of. So we completed paper 1. Now paper 2. In paper 2, we talk about Indian society, demographic profile of India, where we are talking about ethnic and linguistic elements, Indian population, Varnashrama, Purushartha, ancient Indian structure, caste system, past, present, future, and impact of all this on Indian society, all these religions, Buddhism, Jainism, Islam and Christianity on Indian societies. Right? And fourth is about Indian anthropologists and their contributions. After Indian caste system, we'll study about village. Village system is agrarian system. And we see caste system more pronounced in Indian villages, starting from settlement patterns to occupation specializations. Some chapter 6, tribals. Tribal situation in India, problems of tribal communities, constitutional safeguards for SCs, STs, OBCs, and how contemporary tribal societies are changing, what is the impact of modern democratic institutions, right? Next, ethnic conflicts, impact of all these religions on tribal societies. And finally, anthropology in tribal and rural development. Applied anthropology, action anthropology. How we are using the knowledge of anthropology or contribution of anthropology in rural development, tribal development, understanding all these things. Regionalism, communalism and political movements. Regionalism, communalism we see in GS 1. Right? Understood? So this is paper 2. Any link between paper 1 and paper 2? Any link between paper 1 and paper 2? Archaeological anthropology, we have a link. And look at this. Human DNA profiling in chapter 9.4. DNA technology in chapter 9.1. DNA technology in chapter 12. Same thing, applications are different. Right. Look at 9.4. Genetic screening and counseling. Genetic counseling. Same one. Look at one more link. See here, in 9.5, we are talking about race. We are defining what is race, right? And in paper 2, ethnic elements in Indian population is nothing but racial classification of Indian population. We classify Indians into races. We understand what is race in paper 1 and we apply that knowledge to classify Indian population into different races in chapter 2. Look at chapter 6.1. Biogenetic variability of tribal population. We classify. Here we'll give the racial classification of tribal populations in India. In chapter 2, we are classifying the Indian population. In chapter 6, we are classifying the Indian tribal population into different races. Right? Look at the 8.1. Impact of Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam on tribal societies. Impact of Buddhism, Jainism, Islam and Christians on Indian societies. Similar themes. Connection, interlinking. Understood? Right. So this is a syllabus. Any questions from syllabus? This is a big picture of anthropology. So let's understand the importance of PYQs, previous year questions. So how the rankers are able to score 300 plus marks, identifying the themes, identifying the priority areas, identifying the focus. What are the repetitive themes, repetitive questions, nature of questions, repetitive patterns. Let's look at this. Look at the 2023 question. Methods of personal identification based on skeletal remains. This is nothing but forensic anthropology. 2024. Applications of forensic anthropology. Gap could evaluate. 2025. Forensic analysis. Same thing. Forensic anthropology. 23, 24, 25. నార్మల్గా మనలాంటి లెజెండ్స్ ఏం ఆలోచిస్తారు? 23లో అడిగితే 24లో ఇవ్వరు. ఓకే ఇచ్చాడు, 2 సార్లు అడిగాడు కదా, 25లో అస్సలు ఇవ్వడు. 25లో కూడా వచ్చింది. Look at the repetitive themes. (2023) paper. They asked on malnutrition. Next, hominization process. Nothing but how humans evolved from Africa, out of Africa theory. And Clifford Geertz. 23 paper. 25 paper. Centrality of African continent. Same. Hominization process. Out of Africa theory. Clifford Geertz. Look at the theme. 23 paper and 25 paper. Don't expect same question. Sometimes same questions also repeat, but with a gap. Without gap, you will get the themes. Right? Identify the themes. Dating methods. Once chronometric was asked, next year fission track dating method is asked. We have hardly 4 to 5 dating methods, that's it. Postmodernism. Postmodernism. Same theme. When you don't know what is postmodernism, you cannot write how postmodernism helps in promoting social justice. This is a new trend. We'll see. So this is the evolving nature of questions. They are asking from current affairs. Mitochondrial DNA is in news. And how this mitochondrial DNA is used in the human evolution. Because mitochondrial DNA is coming from father or mother? Mother. Genome-wide disease association studies in news. A question was asked for 15 marks, directly picked from news. So anthropology is not just static. It is evolving. Interlinking topics. Linguistic anthropology, culture, language, thought. Chapter 7, 2.1. Right? So here they are interlinking. Look at this. How the study of variation in the forms of marriage led to rethinking on the concept of social reproduction, kinship and family. Marriage, 2.3. Kinship, 2.5. Family, 2.4. They are interlinking the topics. So it's not like when you study about marriage, only think about marriage. You have to interlink with family, how marriage forms family and how family is associated with kinship